Lionel Scaloni announced Argentina's 2026 World Cup squad, the name everyone was waiting for wasn't there. Franco Mastantuono, 18 years old. Real Madrid's crown jewel, the most exciting teenage talent in Argentine football. The player the entire country had been dreaming about, left out, gone. Not even in the conversation. And you know what that tells you about this Argentina squad? It tells you that being 18 years old and playing for Real Madrid isn't enough to get you in. That is the level of what Scaloni has built. That is the depth of what is coming to this World Cup. And that is exactly why the new Argentina team is genuinely, completely, and utterly terrifying. Because here's the thing the world needs to understand before this tournament begins.
The Argentina that won the World Cup in Qatar in 2022 was Lionel Messi's miracle. A squad held together by the will of one man, by the belief of a fan base, by the prayers of a nation that had waited 36 years. It was historic. It was emotional. It was one of the greatest nights in football history. But that Argentina, that was the old Argentina. What Scaloni has assembled for 2026 is something different, something colder, something built not around one aging genius, but around a generation of players who are right now, at this exact moment, hitting the prime of their careers simultaneously. And the terrifying part is the world still hasn't fully noticed. Let's make something very clear before we go any further. No nation has successfully defended the World Cup since Brazil in 1962. 64 years. That is how hard it is. That is the mountain Scaloni is attempting to climb. And yet, when you look at this squad, position by position, name by name, you do not see a team trying to survive the defense of a title. You see a team hunting a second one, like it is the only natural thing to do. Start and goal with Emiliano Martínez, the man who saved Argentina in 3 separate penalty shootouts in Qatar, against the Netherlands, against France. The man who made the greatest save in World Cup history against Kolo Muani in extra time of the final. Love him or hate him, when a penalty shootout arrives, there is no goalkeeper on earth you would rather have between the posts. In front of him, the defensive wall. Nicolas Otamendi, the warrior. Christian Romero, elite even when Tottenham struggled around him. A defender with passing range that destroys opposition structures before they are even set. And then Lautaro Martínez. When he is fit, he is arguably the best central defender in the world. Erling Haaland has failed to score in 6 of the 7 matches he has played against Lautaro Martínez. 6 out of 7 against Haaland. That is not a coincidence. That is a force of nature. Nicolas Tagliafico remains the heartbeat of the left flank, one of the most underrated defenders on the planet. A man who was not dribbled past once during the entire Copa America 2024. But the midfield is where this Argentina side becomes genuinely different from anything they have produced before. Rodrigo de Paul, the soul of the national team, the engine that never stops. Alexis McAllister, one of the most technically complete midfielders in the Premier League. Leandro Paredes, the metronome. And then, the 2 names that represent the new Argentina more than anyone else. Enzo Fernández, 25 years old, Chelsea midfielder, World Cup winner at 21. This season in the Premier League alone, he registered 10 goals and 4 assists, making him one of the most productive central midfielders in England. He has won the World Cup, the Copa America, the FIFA Club World Cup. He has more trophies at 25 than most players collect in an entire career. And he is not even close to his peak yet. That is the most frightening sentence in this entire video. And alongside him, Nico Paz, 21 years old, attacking midfielder for Como in Serie A, born in Spain, plays for Argentina. And this season, 12 goals and 6 assists in Serie A, named the best midfielder in all of Serie A for the 2025-26 season. Against Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus, Napoli, the biggest clubs in Italy, he did not flinch. He delivered. He terrorized. Real Madrid have a buyback clause on him, and they are exercising it precisely because they know what they let go. The world outside of football Twitter does not know this name yet. By the end of this World Cup, every single person on this planet will. And the attack. Lautaro Martínez, Argentina's relentless forward, the man who scored the winning penalty in the Copa America 2021 final that ended 28 years without a trophy. Giuliano Simeone, Diego Simeone's son, a player who fears absolutely nothing and grows bigger in the biggest moments. Thiago Almada, the player who quietly carried Argentina through the most difficult patches of qualifying. Nicolas Gonzalez, and then him, Julián Álvarez, the Spider, 26 years old, top scorer for Atletico Madrid this season with 20 goals across all competitions. 8-time Ballon d'Or. Discussions are happening around strikers right now, and Julián Álvarez's name belongs in that conversation. In Qatar 2022, he arrived as a young surprise, a substitute who became a hero. In 2026, he arrives as Argentina's first name on the team sheet, the main man, the starter, the striker. The opposition has to build their entire game plan around, and he is 26 years old. He has not even reached his peak yet, but here is what makes all of these names even more frightening. Here is the thread that connects every single one of them into something greater than the sum of their parts. And to understand it, you have to go back to 2018. Because the most important story in Argentine football over the last 8 years is not Messi's redemption. It is the story of a man nobody wanted. When Lionel Scaloni was appointed Argentina head coach in August 2018, the reaction was almost universally negative. He had no top-level club management experience, 0 trophies as a manager. He was relatively unknown outside Argentina, a former squad player, a journeyman defender who had toured the middle ranks of European football. Football journalists questioned the appointment openly. Fans were confused, and nobody believed in him, and Scaloni walked into that job knowing all of it. He walked in anyway, and what he built from that moment is one of the most extraordinary managerial achievements in modern international football. In his first full tournament, Copa America 2021, Argentina ended 28 years without a major trophy by beating Brazil in the Maracanã final, in Brazil, in front of their own fans, on their own soil. Then came the Finalissima in 2022, a 3-0 demolition of European champions Italy that announced to the world that this was not a one-off. Then Qatar 2022, the World Cup, one of the greatest tournaments in history, ending in arguably the greatest final ever played, Argentina versus France, 3-3 after extra time, won on penalties. Messi finally redeemed, a nation finally complete. And then Copa America 2024, back-to-back continental titles. 4 trophies in 4 years, mate. 4. The man nobody wanted, building the most successful Argentine cycle since Maradona in 1986. And through qualifying for 2026, Argentina topped the entire CONMEBOL table with 38 points from 18 matches, finishing above Brazil, Colombia, Uruguay, every rival comfortably. This is not a lucky manager. This is a builder, a genuine football architect who created a system, an identity, a mentality, and then filled it with exactly the right players at exactly the right time. And the mentality piece is the one people miss most. Because Scaloni did not just win trophies, he created a culture inside that squad that plays like a club team. The chemistry, the automatisms, the way they understand each other's movement without words. It was built over years of repetition, of trust, of shared suffering, and shared glory. That Saudi Arabia loss in the 2022 group stage, that could have broken them. Instead, it welded them together. And now, 3 years later, those bonds are even deeper. The players who survived that low moment and went on to win everything. They arrive in 2026 knowing what it costs. And the new generation that has grown into the squad since then has inherited that knowledge without having to learn it the hard way. That is an almost impossible cultural transfer to execute. Scaloni executed it perfectly. And now we arrive at the part of this story that nobody is talking about enough. The shift that has happened quietly underneath all the noise about Messi's hamstring and Mastantuono's omission. Because the most important development in Argentine football ahead of this World Cup is not a player or a result. It is a power dynamic. Qatar 2022 was Lionel Messi's World Cup. He was the plan, the hope, the identity. When he was off the pitch, Argentina were a different team. When he was injured during the Saudi Arabia defeat, the panic was immediate and visible. The entire machine revolved around one man, and that man was 35 years old. In the final days before the 2026 squad announcement, Messi suffered a hamstring overload in an MLS match for Inter Miami. He had to be substituted. He went straight down the tunnel, and for a few hours the internet went into a state of collective anxiety. But here is what was different this time. Within 24 hours, Scaloni confirmed the squad with Messi in it and said simply, "The reports are not that bad," and Argentina barely flinched. No panic, no emergency, no sense that the entire project was at risk, because the entire project is no longer at risk if Messi misses a game. That is a profound change. Messi, with a hamstring overload, is still the best player in the world when he steps onto the pitch, but an Argentina squad that can now absorb his absence without collapsing, that is not the Qatar 2022 Argentina. That is something evolved, something more complete, something more frightening. Because look at what is around him now. Julián Álvarez at his absolute peak, the best version of himself, leading the line as the undisputed number 9. Enzo Fernández and Nico Paz as the creative heartbeat of midfield. Two players combining a combined age of 46, who between them have already won a World Cup, Serie A's Best Midfielder Award, and the most important Champions League moments of their respective club seasons. Lautaro, the penalty box destroyer. Giuliano Simeone, the man who fears nothing. De Paul, the warrior who runs until his legs give out. And then Messi, arriving off the bench, or arriving fully fit, or arriving as the conductor of the orchestra. In any of those three scenarios, Argentina are terrifyingly dangerous, and that is the new reality. Messi is no longer the ceiling. He is the bonus. Scaloni built a dynasty when nobody believed in him. He created a new generation without dismantling the old one. He handed the future to Julián Álvarez and Nico Paz and Enzo Fernández without ever diminishing the present that Messi and De Paul and Otamendi still represent. And now, as the greatest footballer who has ever lived prepares for his 6th and final World Cup, he does not do so as a man carrying a nation on his back. He does so as a man surrounded by a team that is complete without him and extraordinary with him. That is the gift Scaloni gave Messi. And that is the nightmare he created for the rest of the world. No nation has done it in 64 years. This Argentina squad might be better than the one that already did it. The new Argentina is here, and it is genuinely, completely, and utterly terrifying.